Can this specialized IPA glass actually enhance your IPA drinking experience and turn it up to 11? Or is it just hype? Well, today I'm going to test it against this classic tulip snifter and see if your beer glass actually makes a difference. Stay tuned to find out which glass comes out on top. Okay, so here's the deal. The IPA glass, right? Meant for drinking IPAs out of. I mean, that right makes sense, yeah? Drink an IPA out of an IPA glass. But why should that even be so? So let's quickly discuss what the point of this glass even is. So the main features about this glass is that it's got this aerated bottom here. So this is supposed to aerate your beer as you sip and release those hoppy aromas as the beer runs over those ridges as you tip the glass to sip. Then you've got this sort of tall, slender top of the glass here. So this is meant to, trap those aromas and trap the hoppy aromas as you're sipping. And then finally, some glasses, not this one, have nucleated bottoms, which is essentially little etched points or lines on the bottom of the glass that helps carbonation and CO2 bubbles come out of the beer. And so the idea behind that is that the CO2 is supposed to help some of those volatile, hoppy, aromatic compounds come out of the beer so that you can get them up your nose and smell all that hoppiness. And also that carbonation increases the perception of crispness as well. And of course, just a bubbly beer just looks super cool. I mean, why else do I use it on every single beer ad ever? So the gist of all that is that the IPA glass is supposed to enhance the hoppiness or your perception of the hops as you drink the beer. I mean, hoppiness and IPAs go together. So essentially what you're doing is taking your IPA and it's supposed to be jacking it up on steroids. But does that theory really stack up in practice? So for our test, I'll be tasting the same identical IPA in both an IPA glass and a ubiquitous tulip glass. So this tulip snifter is the go-to glass for a lot of beer tastings and is what I use at home when I taste beer as well. So the shape of this glass is supposed to help with being able to swirl the beer to release those flavors and aromas, and also to trap the aromas as they come out of the glass, so you can get that more concentrated aroma up your nose. And then you can either hold by the tulip, so if you don't want to warm your beer, or you can hold it like this if you do want to help warm the beer up, depending on what beer style you're having. So this is basically the common go-to beer glass for any sort of beer tasting. So it should act as a good control for the test we have today. But the most important part of today's test is the actual beer, because testing how an IPA tests, in an empty glass is kind of useless. So if we don't have beer, this test basically just fails. So for that, we have the local Brewing Co. IPA. This is a 6.2% classic West Coast style IPA, and so it should suit this test perfectly. Anyway, let's get to pouring some beer and seeing how we go. Given we have two glasses, we may as well have two cans. Let's start with the pouring of each glass. So one thing I did notice that when you poured it into the IPA glass, it all basically became foamy, and then the bottom of this glass, the foam quickly dissipated. Then got to about the bulbous part, and then it sort of slowly went. Whereas with the snifter, it did keep a good sort of inch or so of foam all the way through, but the head's kind of died since I've poured it. So being an IPA and being hoppy, that's not unexpected. So cloudy appearance, sort of like an orange, amber colour. What do we get on the nose? We'll start with the snifter, and then we'll see what the IPA glass gives us. Juicy, kind of get like a stone fruit, maybe a little bit of tropical fruit feel mixed with pininess. Quite an enticing aroma. Actually, I do like the aroma of this beer very much. A little bit stronger in the IPA glass, I reckon. Yeah. The aroma in this is a little more dank. The aroma in here is a little more bright, like a little bit of like that, a little bit more of that fruitiness is coming through in this glass here. So that's interesting. So after giving a whiff of both beers, why don't we actually get what we're here for and actually taste it. So let's go in. Oh, immediately the carbonation on the tongue. Just the carbonation hits the tongue straight away. It does have a full mouthfeel. Does have this little bit of this like malty sweetness backbone, but it's almost like bittersweet because some of that hoppy bitterness comes through. Before it does get too cloyingly sweet, the hops just come in and say, bang, no, you are not going to be overly sweet beer. And it's sort of, again, there's almost like this kind of resiny, piney flavor, like a little bit of stone fruit on there as well. And then the finish is this very smooth, moderately high, lingering fruity bitterness, crisp bitterness as well. So let's just see how that compares with the IPA glass here. Now, one thing to note is that these are down here, and when I tilt the glass, I don't really get down there. So I don't know whether I'm gonna have to pour some out, or do I just drink it all? But is there any initial differences in flavour? I think it might be more related to the fact that the aroma's coming out of each glass slightly differently. But this has more of like a dank character to it. Whereas this seems to have a bit more of a brighter character to it. But I am really interested to see what effect these ribs have down the bottom. So I'm just gonna pour some into this glass here, and then we will see what effect it has. Just to make sure the beers aren't different and it is actually the glass and I'm not making this up in my head, I'm going to go in for another test. That still has like a more like a brighter, a little bit more pronounced hoppiness to it. Whereas this is a little bit more subdued, a little bit more dank. Yeah, I think more of the difference in the flavour is probably coming from that smell and the fact that when you put it up to your mouth and you get the aroma going up your nose, this does seem to have a little bit more of like a bright character to it. Now, that was already happening before we got to the ribs, so I'm wondering whether it's just got something to do with a slightly different shape of the glass. I don't know, maybe it does actually have, maybe this glass does actually do something. Who would have thought? Now, if we do this dangerous back and forth pouring again, I want to see if those ribs actually make a difference to when the beer's not running over the ribs. So I think it is a little bit more subdued actually when it's not running over the ribs. Yeah, I reckon it is. There's just like it's very subtle though. All these differences, they're not glaringly obvious and you do have to look for them. So it's not like the beer tastes drastically different, but there is a slight difference. Does this beer glass here, the IPA glass, does it really live up to the hype? I'm going to say no. Now, why is that? Because I did say that there are some differences when I was having it. And yes, having it out of this IPA glass, I did feel that there was a bit more of a bright character to it. The hoppiness in both the flavour and the aroma was a little bit more brighter than this glass here, where it was a little bit more dank. Or maybe not, a bit more subdued is probably more the right way of saying it. But was the difference great? No, it wasn't a significant difference. It was a very subtle difference, and if you're not looking for it, you could easily not pick that up. And I think the only way you would pick that up, the difference, is in a side-by-side taste. You know, if I had this beer out of this glass today, and then I had it out of this glass tomorrow, I don't think I would really detect any difference. The only way to detect the difference is having it side by side and looking for it. So, while yes, there is a bit of a difference between drinking the tulip from the tulip snifter and drinking from the IPA glass, unfortunately, this IPA glass does not turn the beer up to 11. Like, it's not going to turn a crap IPA into an amazing IPA just by putting it in this glass. Like, what's going to make the experience of drinking the IPA good or bad is whether the beer is good or bad. And I must say, this beer is pretty good. I recommend this beer. You want to drink your IPA out of this glass? Go ahead. If you don't, don't. I'm a strong believer in that you should enjoy your beer and your craft beer however you want. It's really up to you. It's your experience. Whatever makes you happy, that's what you should do. Whatever you enjoy the most, however you enjoy drinking your craft beer the most, go ahead. I think that's the great thing about craft beer. It's that there is something for everyone in there and you should enjoy it how you enjoy it the most. But there you have it, folks. The difference between an IPA glass and the Snifter. I'm not quite sure it's time to ditch all your beer glasses and upgrade them all to IPAs if you are serious about IPAs. But if you're a beer snob, you love IPAs, well, maybe you should upgrade to one and give it a go yourself. And see if there is any difference. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. Comment down below, hit the like button, and watch one of these other videos where you can see more craft beer experiences and discover more craft beer with me. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today, and thanks for watching, and until next time, cheers.